Hi all, Cynthia here from NB Pretty Papers. Welcome. Today I'm going to do a diary cover. Now if you follow my channel you would have known that maybe a month, 2 months ago thereabouts I did my first diary cover and it was all in practice for doing this one. So I have a friend and it's been her birthday recently and she uses a diary all the time, so I thought I would purchase a diary and do a cover for it. I also did the canvas layout that I done. That was also for her birthday as well, so she got the canvas and she's going to get this diary. So hence there's similar colours, blues and greens, as that's what she once said to me that she wanted the canvas piece to be, so I figured maybe that's what she likes. I probably should do that for the diary as well. So I have some tissues, and I haven't used tissues on a diary cover before, so I'm not too sure how they will hold up long term. But so I've put those down, and initially I was going to have the birds like you see them there, both of the birds sort of into the middle of the page, but in the end I decided to cut it out and put the bird on the other side, so it's the same bird repeated on the other page, which actually threw out the quote that I had in my mind that I was going to put on the front page of this diary. I initially was going to put something about be an individual, no, something about being individual and, you know, be happy to be different or something like that. And then I laid down exactly the same image on the front and the back, and I thought, that's not so individual and being different, is it? So I swapped out my quote in the end. So I'm liking that way that's coming together, but I got that little gap there, so I'm trying to figure out what I should do with those, and in the end I just snip out another little flower and glue it on down there. So I'm using matte gel medium to glue on the images, and you would have saw that I put a couple of coats of white gesso on the cover as well. So I've gone through my paints and I pull out a couple of different colours here. They're quite old paints, and some of them the binder has separated, so I do a lot of squishing of the tubes before I squeeze out, hoping to sort of make the two mix again. So now I want to blend in the birds and the flowers with the background, and I'm trying to put a bit of a sky in. It starts off being a bit dark, but I work with it and trying to lighten it up. And I did this thinking it might have some cloud feel to it. I didn't want it too smooth. So I've just grabbed a sponge here and using the sponge to dab it around. It's taken a little bit of the colour away, so I add the colour back in a little bit. I'm also trying to make sure I get a mixture of the tones, so it's not all light and bright, it's not all dark. Dry that off and put a little bit more on the sponge and come back in, and this is a darker colour now, so then I have the different grades in the colour that's happening in the background to give it a little bit of depth. The paint went over top of the image a little bit, so I just take a damp baby wipe and wipe off any paint that's gone where I don't want it to be, just so those images stand back out a little bit again. And then I just use my finger to add a little bit of colour to some of the white areas, so it's not quite such a contrast between the background and the white down there. Pull out a stencil, and I've mixed up some green colour there, which kind of goes with the green in the flowers. And this stencil pattern really reminds me of the pattern that's in the background behind the flowers and the birds. It doesn't look the great on the camera when you can see it here, but once in person it looked really nice, and here it sort of looks a little bit blotchy, but it doesn't end up looking that way. It's just a nice subtle detail in the background, and it's just come in with the gel highlighter there for a little bit and add a little bit of details to the birds and some of the flowers, and I come back later and do some more of that as well. Adding white sprinkles. Always need to add a few little white sprinkles, and I think I come back in once again later too and add a little bit more if I remember correctly. So this layout, or the canvas, I worked on probably over a 4-day period, maybe a little bit each day. So you probably see a few different lightings, and a bit of jumping is probably where I've stopped and started again. Was trying to lighten up the edge around the cover, and I did get out this paint pen. It wasn't working that well. I don't know whether the paint was 100% dry, which probably didn't help. What I should have done, and I didn't think of at the time, was got out some white gesso and used that to go around the edge, but never gave that a thought at the time. Just using the black pen now to go around, sort of give it a little bit of definition and shadow around the birds. And I also come back in once again later once everything's dry, and I do a bit more shading. I get out the Pitt brush markers and do some shading. Here's my markers here. I initially started and realised that I probably didn't have enough matte gel medium on, and the colour didn't blend very well, so I've come back in and going to add some colour. No, not going to add some colour, I'm going to add the matte gel medium, so then I can add the colouring and the shading. Cover that up nicely, then I let that all dry, and then I decide I'll work on the inside of the cover. So add the gesso, a couple of layers of gesso again to the inside of the cover. I don't need it quite so nice. Sorry, my son's just got out of bed and has decided that he wants to show me what he got in his advent calendar, and he got $2 this morning, so he's quite happy with that. So if you can hear some banging and clanging in the background, so just lifted that little pocket up there and set a sponge in under there so it can dry properly. And then I've mixed up some really nice bright green to sort of contrast with the outside of the cover, and I'm going to paint the inside of the cover this green as the base colour. Once again, I'm not trying to make it a perfect coverage. You can see that's quite streaky there, and I'm okay with that. I know and I'm planning on laying some stencils over it, and then I'm going to do a lot of journaling on top of it, so it doesn't bother me too much. Not too sure what I'm doing here. Let me see. Ah, yes, I've decided that this is the stencil that I'm going to use. So it was the same stencil that I used on the outside of the cover. I'm also going to use it on the inside as well, but I'm going to switch the colours around, whereas on the outside it was a blue base cover and then I did green through the stencil. Now I have green base cover and I'm going to do blue through the stencil. And once again, it looks quite blotchy when I lift it up, or what you can see here, but in person you could see the details in the stencil really well, and it looked lovely. It looked very nice. I was happy with it. Starting to work on the outside again, I decided that I want to put a little quote in a circle. So I've grabbed out some washi tape and just using that to draw around my pattern, and then I'll trim that out. Probably would have been easier if I had coloured it in before I trimmed it out, but so be it. And then I'm going to grab out the oxide inks and use those to colour. How does everyone store their little spongy pads with the big oxide ink, so where you can't store them underneath the lid, not the way I stack them anyway. So some suggestions would be great on how to store those. So I have these They are a rub-on really, and I've had these in my stash. I would say, now I started scrapping in 2001, 2002, and I reckon I purchased these around those times. So certainly 10, 15 years old, and they still work a dream. And when I brought them, I brought a really big stack of them. So I've used quite a few over the years, and I still use them. They can get a bit tricky to put down, and because the oxide ink was a little bit damp still, I left that bit of white paper there, which made it hard to see where I was going. So in a minute I throw that aside and I don't use that for the rest of it. Just touching up a couple of the little letters, and then away I go again, gluing it down. Put a little bit of double-side tape on the background to help the circle stay still, and I'm going to put down my quote, which I cannot remember what it was. It was a definition of something, which meant, can't remember. Hopefully you can read it. I don't have the diary with me anymore. I've passed it on as a gift, so hopefully you can read it. If not, there's certainly some close-up photos at the end where you should be able to read it. Using that gel to put that down. Try not to smudge the oxide ink, and also not to move the rub-ons, which one did move slightly, which was fine. Inside cover, I've grabbed my white paint pen, and I'm just going to write a whole lot of positive quotes and back in and do the shading that I spoke about. I go around all the birds and the flowers and some of the stems of the flowers, and that is really it. I hope you've enjoyed the process. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, leave me any comments, ask questions. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are and what you thought of this one. Until next time, everyone be well, have a wonderful Christmas. Well, yes, have a wonderful Christmas. I think this will go up before Christmas, or holidays, or just a lovely time of the year. And I will catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Bye.